Everyone's favourite marshmallowy hero is back in Kirby Star Allies. This colourful platformer is very similar to previous Kirby games, with short levels, simple mechanics and easy combat. And of course, Kirby's signature move is back. A huge vacuum cleaner inhale which allows him to adopt the abilities of the creatures he's swallowed. You know what they say, you are what you eat.
And that saying has never been truer than in the case of Kirby. But that's not the only trick he has up his sleeve. Kirby can also swallow air and float indefinitely. When you put an ability like that in a platforming game, it loses a lot of its challenge.
While the story isn't the most gripping part of a game like this, there is an intro cutscene. A dark crystal heart has exploded, scattering pieces all across the world. It's then up to Kirby to go and investigate and set things right.
But the pink puffball doesn't have to go it alone. After all, this is Kirby Star Allies, not Kirby Star Solo. Up to 3 friends can join you on your quest, either computer or player controlled. These teammates can also combine abilities with you to increase your attack or allow you to solve puzzles. Now, I love a good co-op game. Getting to work alongside my pals is my fave. But I do have to say, I think you're better off with the AI in this case.
Ah, Rad, I'm glad to see you finally recognise the objective superiority of artificial intelligence.
No, Darren, that's not actually what I was saying. I mean, in general,
We cybernetic life forms are indeed better in every possible way. Ah, goodbye.
But you are right, Rad, the AI does come in very handy. In fact, you can literally just avoid fighting altogether and let your buddies take care of it for you.
This actually takes away some of the enjoyment for me. I don't think a game has to be difficult in order to be fun, but this was way too easy. It practically plays itself.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling to be playing a game where you don't actually have to play the game. There are jigsaw pieces to find and some light puzzling thrown in, but you can virtually finish the game just by moving and floating in the right direction. I think the only time I died was when I jumped thinking there was a platform below the view of the screen, and there wasn't.
Yeah, it's mind-numbingly easy. It's like the anti-Cuphead.
I really like that description, but funnily enough, Rad, I actually started to enjoy that after a while. There's something nice about just plodding along and finishing some easy levels. I didn't itch to play more between sessions like I would with a great game that I'd really fallen in love with, but I had some fun while I was playing it.
Yeah, that's a fair call. It does manage to be rather delightful. The game is highly polished, everything is cute and cartoony, and it's all about friendship. Aww! And I particularly liked just floating around the little hub world map on a shooting star.
Aww. Yeah, the game has a real sense of whimsy to it, and I think they did a really good job mixing up the gameplay. There's water to swim in, cannons to be fired out of, and all manner of different abilities to acquire, many of which are funny.
Overall, the whole thing was way too easy. I mean, even the boss battles had zero challenge. You may look big, but you're just a huge softie whose attacks I don't even have to dodge. Weak sauce!
I think Kirby Star Allies is best suited to younger spawnlings based on how easy it is. But if you're a Kirby fan looking for something to sit back and play, it's not a bad time. I'm giving it 3 out of 5 rubber chickens.
See, this is a hard one for me because it's not a bad game. It's just so easy to the point that it actually feels a bit pointless. I'm gonna give it 2 out of 5 rubber chickens.
All right, Darren, are you ready to take a look at the ever-pleasant pink puffball Kirby's latest adventure?
Oh, affirmative. Behold, Kirby, Planet Robobot.
Darren, before we go any further, I was just wondering, is there any actual difference between a robot and a Robobot?
Negative. Well, other than the fact that robot is a real word, whereas Robobot is something Nintendo completely made up.
Okay, well, thanks for clearing that up. In Kirby Planet Robobot, Kirby is taking a nap when all of a sudden a giant robot spider thing invades Dreamland. And after King DDD and Meta Knight fail to stop the invaders, it comes down to Kirby to save the day.
Kirby has always been a series known for its relatively gentle gameplay, designed so gamers of any skill level can have fun. For example, it's a 2D platformer, or 2.5D to be precise, but Kirby can easily float above levels for as long as he likes, so platforming is rarely something you'll struggle with.
Plus, Kirby can simply suck up any enemies standing in his way and steal their powers, so he's a super powerful character and it's actually quite hard to die. And now they've actually made him even more powerful thanks to the new Robobot suits. These are mech suits that Kirby can jump into, and just like him, they can absorb the powers of almost any enemy.
Some enemy powers are much more useful for Kirby to absorb than others, though. Powers like flamethrowers and electric shocks are clearly useful, while the circus power is less useful. But the power of sleep, not useful at all.
Yeah, that's a pure troll power, isn't it? Although I think it's meant to be more of a light-hearted joke than a troll. I mean, this is a game that's supposed to make you happy and put a smile on your face through sheer silliness and adorableness.
Oh, affirmative. Although I have found that Kirby games can be almost too easy. Charm can only substitute for challenging gameplay for so long. However, I think they've managed to create a decent challenge this time, mostly from trying to find the 3 code cubes on each level. These are often quite well hidden and require a bit of puzzle solving to get.
Yeah, I think there's some decent variety in the puzzles. Sometimes they're fairly straightforward environmental puzzles where you have to move bits of the environment around to get them. Or some will require you to follow a set of instructions you see in-game. Or you might just need Kirby to have the right power for the job.
But that's easier said than done. The game does frequently railroad you into new areas, so once you've gone through a door, there's no going back. And you may just find the power you need was in the previous area, so you'll often see a cube that you know how to get, but you'll simply have to restart the whole level to get it.
Yeah, that can feel a bit frustrating, and you're never going to play the whole level again just to go back and get that one missed cube.
But you only need to track down a certain number of cubes in each of the game's 6 worlds in order to access the final boss of that world. And it's quite forgiving in terms of how many cubes you need and how many you'll easily find.
Yeah, I mean, I never had to go back through levels to get extra cubes to unlock a boss, and the campaign is quite short. It only took me about 6 hours to get through, so it's nice that there's that replayability there if you do want to find every cube.
Oh, affirmative. And while the campaign may be on the short side, there's certainly a lot of content here to keep you busy. Outside of the campaign, there are 2 whole separate games with Kirby 3D Rumble and Team Kirby Clash.
3D Rumble is basically a little arcadey battle arena where you're trying to rack up combos and set high scores. While Team Kirby Clash is a sort of light multiplayer RPG for 4 people, where you choose a character and you can level up and take on bosses with your friends.
They're quite simple mini-games, but they're fun and add excellent variety to the game. Oh, but the variety doesn't stop there. Once you finish the campaign, you'll unlock another 2 modes, Meta Nightmare Returns and the Arena.
Meta Nightmare Returns is basically a speedrun-focused, harder version of the whole campaign, where you'll find less health and also won't have access to Kirby and his power-sucking ability.
While the Arena is another speedrun-focused take on the campaign, except this time it's purely about trying to defeat all the game's bosses in a row.
Now, personally, these aren't the kind of game modes that I really like to play. I'm just not one to get fussed about setting amazing scores on leaderboards and things like that, but it's good that that is there for players that do want to get competitive with their friends. We should wrap this up though, Darren. What's your final score?
Well, it is a well-crafted platformer with a lot of character, content, and a surprising amount of challenge for a Kirby game. I am giving it 4 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Yeah, it's a hard game not to like. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 as well.
finally sees my precious pink boy taking the starring role in his own 3D adventure. And frankly, can't believe it's taken this long.
Things start off on Kirby's home planet, Planet Popstar. He's just flying around on a star, living his best Kirby life, until giant cracks form in the sky and pull him and everyone else in. He then washes up on what looks like Crash Bandicoot's first level, but it turns out to be the cutest post-apocalypse ever.
Yeah, even the bad guys here are just adorable. But bad guys they are, who have taken all the Waddle Dees hostage. So of course, Kirby sets out on a no-holds-barred mission to suck them up and free his planet folk.
Along with being a famed sucker-upper of things, Kirby is also a renowned floaty boy, which makes light work of the platforming here. Oh, you want me to do some precise jumps over these here platforms? No, thank you. I'ma just float.
Yeah, Kirbs is a super overpowered, unstoppable force. Between his many powers, his floating, and heaps of health, even on harder difficulty, this is a pretty easy breezy adventure. But that's certainly not a bad thing, I think.
Yeah, I liked the more laid-back vibe of this, but that's not to say there isn't some decent challenge. Kirbs can't float forever and can only go up so high, and he moves real slow while floating, so you can't just float over the whole game.
And they up the pressure with lots of little time challenges scattered throughout. And there are loads of these quick little side missions that test your skills a bit more. Plus, each level has heaps of hidden Waddle Dees to find.
I loved how lots of the collectibles are actually useful. It just made me want to hunt them down even more. After a little while, the Waddle Dees set up a small town, which grows as you save more of them. And they run a shop, which lets you spend coins and collectibles to upgrade your already powerful powers.
There are heaps of powers you can absorb, each with multiple versions, so you can tackle levels in different ways. Want to ice skate through a level? Maybe roll through them as a giant spiky ball? Or just break space and time itself? Kirbs can do it all. And speaking of levels, there are some great ones. I especially love the ones set in the abandoned theme park with roller coasters and haunted houses.
And I loved how the town kept getting new mini games and things to check out too. I do admit I got a bit obsessed with Tilt and Roll Kirby for a minute. Get in your hole, ball! Oh, and Gem! What? They have a fishing mini game!
I know!
But it's not very good. I got myself very hyped up for a second there, only to find it's just a little quick time event thingy. That is not fishing.
Well, all that shouting does remind me we should talk about mouthful mode. This lets Kirby take control of big things like cars, vending machines, pipes, and all sorts. These make for great little moments where they just change up the game. I particularly love water-filled Kirby. His big sloshy belly brings me much joy.
Yeah, I did love those bits. Although, speaking of variety, I was a bit disappointed by the boss fights. First off, there's not really much strategy to them. The bosses felt like big damage sponges, and I'd end up just standing next to them, spamming attacks, and tanking through their hits. And they all get reused heaps. I lost count of how many times I fought some of them.
Yeah, they're a bit of a weak spot. But we should also mention you can tackle this whole adventure in co-op. Only locally though, so you will need to find a friend.
Yeah, but while Player 1 gets to be Kirby, Player 2 gets stuck with being everyone's favorite character, Bandana Waddle Dee. He can't even absorb powers and only gets to use a pointy stick. And his name is Bandana Waddle Dee.
Yeah, I can definitely see that causing a few fights over who gets to play as Kirby.
Oh, you mean like how you always insisted in playing Kirby when we played together?
Hey, Kirby is my idol. If I can't play as him, then no one can. But on that note, I really enjoyed this. It's just bright and silly fun. So I'm giving Kirby in the Forgotten Land 4.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
It's a great first outing for Kirby in 3D. I love the way it was always throwing something new at me, which made it super fun and super hard to put down. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 rubber chickens too.